Okay, so here's a first example with a triangle. So we want to solve this triangle, which means we want to find all the sides and all the angles we don't know. Let's start by finding an angle. So let's start by finding angle L. We could have done N, but let's do L. So the first thing, these are the steps we're going to use. They're really, really similar to before. So the first thing is we want to know what ratio to use. So if we're L, we have these two things. Which one of these? It's going to be tangent. So what we're going to write, so we're going to write the equation. We're going to say tangent L is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, so we determined the ratio, we wrote the equation. Now we have to isolate the angle. So we're going to do the inverse tangent of both sides. And to show work, we can skip that one side. But we can do this, right? And then we plug that into our calculator, okay? And when we do that, when we round, we get 33.7. So angle L is 33.7. To get angle N, we can simply subtract that from 90. So when we do that, so we're going to just subtract that from 90. Yay, that's easy, 56.3. Okay, there's a couple different ways we can get ln. If you wanted, you could use trigonometry, but what's way easier is to simply use the Pythagorean theorem. So to get ln, we're going to do 7 squared plus 10.5 squared is equal to ln squared. And then we're going to go ahead and just use our calculator to solve that. You don't have to show a ton of work. We've already done all that. And if you do that, you get ln is equal to 12.6. So all our answers are, we figured out everything we didn't know already. Okay, we're going to do one more example from this section. So here's what we've got. We need to find L and N. Let's start with angle L this time, or again, okay? So if we want L, we need to then think, right, if we follow our steps here, first one, which ratio are we going to use? We have opposite and hypotenuse. Okay, so we want sine. So what we're going to say is we're going to say the sine of L is equal to 7 over 10. Okay, so now we're going to do the inverse sine of both sides. Inverse sine of 7 over 10. And we're just going to use our calculator to get that answer. And when we do that, angle L is equal to 44.4. This is an example I used when you learn to use your calculator. So L is this, 44.4. So N we can get by minusing that from 90. Right, which is equal to 45.6 degrees. So this is almost a 45-90 triangle, but it isn't. And then we can just use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out LM, right? LM. So we're going to say 7 squared plus LM squared is equal to 10 squared. Subtract and square root. Which, again, you know how to do. LM is equal to 7.14. In terms of rounding, absolutely okay here for 1 decimal place for angles, 2 for sides. I think those are good rules. Okay, so again, we want to solve for the triangle. So again, solve for a triangle. Solve for a triangle means find everything you don't know. So as we look at this, one thing we don't know is angle N. Angle N, super straightforward, 62 degrees, minus it from 90. Now we need to find one of the other two sides. Pick one. It doesn't matter which one we pick first. Okay, let's pick MN. So we want to find MN. Okay, so we're going to use one of these. We can pick any angle. I usually pick the angle I was given, just in case I made a mistake here, or later on if I have to do some rounding. I always start with the one I was given. So if we're at L, and we want MN, and we know the hypotenuse, we're going to use sine. So we're going to say the sine of 28 is equal to MN, or L, over 5.1. Okay, if you remember the instructions from before, we're now going to evaluate the function on our calculator, right? Round it to 4 decimal places. So we're going to get this, right? And now we're going to multiply that by 5.1 on both sides, so we end up with 2.39 is equal to mn. Okay, so that's what this is. Okay, now we had to round here, right? We rounded. So to get LM, you may either do another trig function or the Pythagorean theorem. Another trig function is going to be the easiest one to use right now. So just to practice for right now, let's use trigonometry to get LM. So once again, I'm going to use the 28 degrees, but now I'm going to use cosine. Cosine of 28 is equal to LM over 5.1. Notice I haven't used any rounded values. These are all the blue values that were given to me. Okay, if I go ahead and solve that in my calculator, which I know you know how to do, you get, actually let me do it real quick, times 5.1, you get 4.5. So LM here is equal to 4.5. 4.5. And that's how you solve a triangle. A couple notes about trig functions. If you have something like this, right, and this is equal to any ratio we want, okay, opposite over hypotenuse, remember, this is always an angle, this is always a ratio. If you write something along these lines, the ratio is going to be on this side and the angle is over here. Okay, notice the difference. This is really important. It's really important that you think through which function you're using. This statement says, what angle has the ratio of sides opposite over hypotenuse? Okay. This is saying, watch where the pointer is, which angle has this ratio. Okay. So you could say this angle has this ratio, which angle has this ratio. So if I write something along the lines of this, sine of what, inverse sine of what is equal to 36 degrees, this answer is a ratio, a decimal. Okay, that's really, really important.